Hello, I'm ready. Welcome to episode 5 of Election Countdown. I am joined today by Michael Chilton, who is assistant editor from Forge Press.
Deputy editor, yeah.
Deputy editor.
Very pleased to get my name.
And Miles Worswick, who is...
The editor-in-chief, yeah.
The editor-in-chief from the tab Sheffield. Let's start with you, Michael. Obviously the more traditional platform of student media. Give us a brief history of...
Yeah, so it's been going for a long time. In its current form, which is, it used to have a different name. It's now Forge Press, and we celebrated our 100th issue last year so it's been Forge Press since about, I think, mid noughties. And we've released a paper every 2 weeks during term time usually, with a constantly rotating, yearly rotating committee board, editorial team, and accompanying that we are, especially this year, trying to focus more online. But yes, about 40 pages every 2 weeks. We keep on top of that just about.
Maz, you're from the kind of new media, online, the tab. Tell us about, how you see the tab and as a, new, more modern form of media.
Yeah, I think that the thing that makes it unique and different from Forge is that it's only online, so we don't have any print papers. It's just all on our website and all on our Facebook pages. But yeah, it started, I think, kind of the same time, so like mid-noughties, or I think it was maybe 2007 actually. And it's just grown and grown and grown, and now we're in the US, we're in Canada, and we've obviously got a huge number of fans in the UK. And last month we got over 9 million unique views on our website. So yeah, it's really hit the ground running, I suppose.
I mean, the whole phenomena of the tab began, it said on the About Us page, because they felt that we could bring in, student voices that are very original, that can put, their own opinions online and have this platform to do it. And it also said on the About Us page that the tab felt that traditional outlets like yourself was more out of touch with students across campus. Not necessarily the mouthpiece of Forge Press, but in your own opinion, is the tab more out of touch with people? Is Forge Press more out of touch with people than the tab?
Not at all. We cover the same news. I think recently we've been beating you to it ever so slightly with recent stuff. Especially with our comment section, we've been fairly definitely original, quite provocative at times, and I think that's quite epidemic of Forge Press. I don't think it necessarily is out of touch. I think, bearing in mind we still have a print edition, there are certain deadlines we have to meet and stuff. Along with that, and we have to take more care editorially. As being part of the union, we are a registered charity, so there are certain things guidelines we have to follow. But I don't think that necessarily makes us out of touch. I think that kind of ensures that we're getting the best content out in the kind of the best way possible to ensure that we're not kind of.
But you don't
anything illegal.
Push the boundaries so much as the tab does. I mean, I look at some of the articles that you write. Girls watch porn as well. Getting people to accept that if they're working in promo as promo girls, or people suffering with anxiety. Especially, I thought your content to do with the NUS was particularly interesting, because a lot of people who regard the NUS, they don't really have a view on what goes on, because there's not much news that comes out of there. Not many people enter the university even vote in the SU elections because they're so disengaged. Do you feel like you have a role to almost say the unsayable?
I think that young people have always struggled a lot in that there aren't always people who will speak up for them. I think that a lot of the mainstream papers, even, you know, from the Sun to the Telegraph to the Guardian to the Independent, even though they might do the odd story about students, there isn't really anyone who's giving us a voice. And like you say, you know, we have the NUS, but who really pays attention to them? I think that's where the TAB has spotted a huge market that's there for the taking. You know, you look at the amount of views that we now have so many teams all across the world, and that isn't just because we're posting stuff, it's because we're posting things that people actually want to read and that they're interested in. And they see things like, you know, girls do watch porn and they do masturbate. Why is no one talking about this? You know, we say things that some people might see as provocative or controversial, but we're just saying what people are already thinking.
I mean,
do you see yourself as?
I think we pushed boundaries. Like we just this week, our latest issue, we had a really good piece on the kind of the darker side of drinking. We've also done other stuff on anxiety and mental health.
Well, it's not girls masturbating, is it?
Oh no, but admittedly it hasn't been. But it's not because we can't. It's just not been an issue that's been raised to us. Often how it works is we work quite closely with our contributors, and where they come to meetings, they present us with their ideas. If they were to come with us an idea about female masturbation, then they're more than welcome to. It's not that we can't. It's just it's from what people want to write about. That's what we usually put. But Features has, as I said, has done.
So it's not a bureaucracy problem. It's more no one's felt that it's the platform to go to.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think that could be part of it. It's, you know, it's definitely not because we're not allowed to particularly write anything. We definitely haven't had to not write anything like that, or had to kind of stop a piece outright at all because of anything like that.
Maz, I want to come on to, in a sense, the other side of the tab. The side of the tab that, you know, a lot of people read it, but there is this kind of what some would call trash journalism, in a sense of, you know, there are 4 types of penises in the world. An article where it's just a bus driver and a passenger fighting each other. The kind of shag and tell stories of, you know, all the lists of kinds of one night stands you'll have at uni. And articles, you know, defending Katie Hopkins, who isn't particularly popular on university campuses. I remember she went to one university and people had a mass walkout when they arrived. Do you think it's off-putting? Because a lot of the comment sections I saw on those particular articles on the Sheffield page weren't positive.
Well, we do have a big problem with people who do comment, and I think that's an issue maybe to talk about another day. But it's interesting that you say that these articles are somehow controversial, possibly, when like the ones about penis size or whatever.
Well, I mean, take for example, you know, I don't get Brian Cox and Gilmore Girls is trash. Isn't that more to, you know, provoke a reaction that isn't necessarily positive?
I think that it is a provocative thing to say, like, so I wrote, I don't get Brian Cox. I wasn't doing it to bully him. I just don't get him. I don't understand what the hype is. And since I have published it, loads of people have come to me and said, I've been thinking that for ages, but everyone seems to love him. And I also wrote one where I didn't get Ed Sheeran. But you know, there's a reason why our Facebook page in Sheffield has over 15,000 likes. And Forge have 2,000 likes.
Oh, the number is creeping up, I can assure you.
I mean, one thing that you have done with the whole kind of modern media thing is when, for example, there are people getting attacked in parks. I mean, we've had a few incidents like that. There's almost an instantaneous article online that the tab is able to put on. So there is that side of it. But I want to push you again on this other side of the tab. The Duff article, for example, the designated ugly fat friend. Now, you didn't write that.
No, I didn't. No. And it wasn't from my team either, but it was from mine.
As a part of the tab and as a part of, you know, the whole community, do you worry that with the kind of journalism that the tab represents, almost kind of tabloid journalism, that people do get hurt by these kind of articles?
I think that there is potential in some respects for people to somehow take offence. But it's okay to be offended. It's okay if you read an article and are offended by it or upset by it. We don't want to have a world where everyone's treading on eggshells around each other in case you offend someone. But equally, going back to the Duff article, which was released, you look through the comments on that and you think it was some horrific, fascist, awful, hating women article. But in actual fact, it wasn't that at all. It was just a light-hearted take on, something that probably does happen.
I know people might take offence to that, but I want to bring it back to, there was an article in The Sun, I don't know that you necessarily know about this, article in The Sun by Kelvin Mackenzie, where he has a history of being against the people of Liverpool because of his coverage of Hillsborough. And he used Ross Barkley as a target, Everton footballer, who got punched in a bar, and he said he compared Ross Barkley to an ape. And he said that the only people on his kind of money around that part of Liverpool are the drug dealers that go around. Now, I personally look at it and I think the whole reason that there was controversy with that article is because it so happened that Ross Barkley had a black grandfather, so it was pulled up on racism. But it was also an attack on the people of Liverpool, who he historically, after Hillsborough, had a kind of there was a continuing hatred between Liverpool and Kelvin Mackenzie. Do you think that people like myself and other people that have, felt like tabloid journalism has simply just targeted them? Do you think there is kind of an almost, it can go too far?
I think possibly. I think going back to the Kelvin Mackenzie issue, I'm not sure it really was a racial slur because I'm not 100% certain that he knew beforehand about Ross Barkley's history.
He has continually targeted the people of Liverpool.
But, ultimately that's an issue with him. Some people might take his side, some people will go against him ultimately. However many weeks on, was it 3 weeks ago, we're still talking about it now. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's doing something good, but it means that he's probably doing something right.
But do you feel that without kind of proper control and restraint, that the Tab, the Sun, they give platforms to these people to essentially spew hate?
Well, I don't want a controlled media, and I think that otherwise you're going to Russia.
I don't. At the same time, I don't want people to be essentially making money off views which
you don't agree with.
Not so much I don't agree with, but are hateful and upsetting.
Can I jump in here? So I know it doesn't seem forward is often seen as kind of the bland gruel, I guess, but we have run because I was comment editor last year. We ran there was one particular chain of stories focused around a particular brand. I won't go into the details, but we didn't feel we received the first version of that, and we looked at it and said, well, here it needs edits, but we still went ahead and published it. And it wasn't me and my other commentators at the time. It didn't represent our political views at all. But I'm very much a believer in the context. Like, does this story need to be told? Is it relevant? In this case, I think it did. It was irrelevant. In the case you just mentioned, I don't feel it necessarily. I don't see much interest there other than some kind of self-generating interest.
So there's a divide here. You want to publish what people need to know, not always necessarily what they want. Whereas you publish what people want, which is slander, scandal, possible offence. But do you necessarily publish what people need if it divides people?
I think that it is what people need. I think that, you look at our political comments, so we don't just publish things like, I hate Ed Sheeran. We also publish things like an interview with Natalie Bennett, an interview with Nick Clegg that we carried out. We've carried out those over the past year. We've published loads of very important articles. We've got another one coming out It looks at spending on mental health within the UK, how different universities cope with mental health funding, and we look at it in a different way that's not just, this is what the union's doing. We look at it in a kind of, well, let's go out and speak to people who've been through the process.
Because a lot of people have argued, particularly on the right, that university campuses, in an age of no platforming and so on, has a problem with political correctness, and that maybe it is too intrusive. Would you agree that?
We've never had a problem with political correctness at Forge. I know it sounds ridiculous, but as I said, read our comment section.
Yes.
Which will be going online very soon. I think part of the problem is we've been quite restrained by being print, and we realise that online is definitely an outlet which we're visiting. But on that point about what students want as opposed to need, I think, I'm a very firm believer in not covering stories because they're juicy or whatever. I have to feel like there is some kind of point and need to tell them. And I will say this about the tab, like the tab has huge potential. And every so often you do see it, like they broke a really, really great story about mental health recently. And that's partly due to the fact that the tab is a much bigger organisation, obviously, than just a local uni paper. So, they do great stories. But whether they do that on a consistent basis, I really doubt. I think, for me personally, I think a lot of the time it is rather very quick, shallow journalism. And I like to think that, particularly with features of comment and news at Forge, it's more thought out in kind of labouring over what point we want to make.
The tab, to their credit, does have a capacity for fun. I read an entire article where it was just someone riding the Paternoster.
Yeah, that's what people want to read.
I mean, I mean, it's not personally my cup of tea, but we do have fun stories. We had a piece recently about whether we prefer whether Corp or West Street Live is the best night out. It is Corp, by the way. We've done other ones. We've done satirical pieces. I did one on Brexit. We should be focusing on Brexit. There are a lot far worse things happening in the world, and that kind of turned into this absurdist piece. So I don't know. I think we can have fun, but in a kind of, dare I say, smarter way? I don't know. Riding the Paternoster lift. I mean,
it's almost like state-sanctioned BBC kind of fun versus
Channel 4.
Dare we
have I got news to your Gogglebox?
But you're kind of suggesting that people don't really need to know about the things that we publish. You're just
Like
that they want to read them. Well, not necessarily that article. That was just a
What if someone's never read the Paternoster?
Yeah, exactly. I've never written it. I want to read it.
How can you be editor of Sheffield Campus? Hold on, no, forget all this, right?
I've done it. I've been on it.
How can you be in Sheffield, editor of the tab, and not ride the Paternoster?
I hold my hands up. I'm very sorry. It just scares me.
I want everyone to know that, this very young, very exclusive channel I've just broken something that needs to be reported.
This is recorded.
Forge will report it. We'll do a big feature story. But no, I think again, I don't think it's necessarily kind of like a more, I don't know, sanctioned version of fun. I just think it's fun where there's a point to it, or there's some kind of, it's not kind of banal. There's more to take in than just whatever it may be. And I just don't think it's personally worthwhile. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move beyond this before one or two of them start hitting each other or just walk out. I want to ask, because election countdown, we are counting down to the election, less than a month to go. What do you make of the media coverage of Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party? Because that's been a subject of...
I think that they've been out to get Corbyn since the day he won the leadership, even before he won the leadership election. The BBC were literally in shock that he had won. They couldn't believe it. They thought it was going to be, anyone else but Corbyn. I think that when you've got figures such as Tony Blair coming out and saying, he's a dreadful leader, I think that it kind of plants an idea in people's heads that maybe he isn't the right guy for the job. And they don't really look at, the good things that he's doing or the good things that he's maybe said on Prime Minister's question times or anything. I think that's a big shame. I think that it's a big issue within our democracy.
That actually surprises me, because a lot of people were saying that the TAB is just a junior version of the Mail, and
there is a revolving door between a lot of their past editors and you can work at the Sun, maybe.
Are they going to let you in, comrade?
It's very kind of, what did you expect, really? This was going to happen. I think the problem is how they view it. I don't think the majority of the media, especially things like the BBC, aren't necessarily right. I think they're more pro-establishment. In the BBC's case, I think they're pro-establishment because they're terrified of the tabloids, of a Tory government threatening their charter.
Classic Owen Jones.
Yeah.
Well, no, not really. Oh God, please don't. Oh God, I was a comment editor. I don't want to get flashbacks to that. But no, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially when you see members of the Labour Party. Like, at this point in time, the best chance Labour have of winning is Corbyn, because you're not going to get a new leader in a month's time, whatever. So what you want to see is MPs going, right, you know what, I back Corbyn, and okay, we're out of government for another 5 years, and we wait for some kind of, Blairite Sadiq Khan to come running in on his kind of, horse, mayoral horse. I'm sure they have one,
my steed.
Or you kind of allow it to kind of the Labour Party to further fragment, and I think that's quite telling of a lot of the Labour Party, particularly they would rather, I think, see their party fall apart. Mm-hmm. It's not to do with Corbyn, he's a weak leader. It's like, he's the one you've got. You may as well rally behind him because you've got no other choice right now. But they're still coming out. There was one the other day the media covered quite well. I can't remember who it was. It was, I think, an MP. I can't. It's a backbencher, but coming out with this kind of quite sensationalist kind of letter, very, very near the election. You're thinking, well, look, so it's one thing to not think Corbyn's going to win, and it's the second thing to actively sabotage him. And I think that's the telling thing.
But with the Diane Abbott debacle over the past week, the issue is that I've had a few people say to me, do you think she did it on purpose? Do you think that she's purposely trying to sabotage Corbyn to make a point and try and...
I find it quite... I find it quite... What really gets me is there are now... The whole reason we had this election was because 34 Tory MPs were under investigation for spending more than they were legally allowed during the campaign. Then we had her record over while she was in, I can't remember what she was Home Secretary, where details about MPs and child abuse were essentially covered up. These are two national scandals, and yet we're talking about one person who can't get maths right.
Mm-hmm.
Again, though, like what do you expect? I don't think it's not controversial in any way. There are certain power structures in place that, you know what, they quite like having an establishment party in. I guarantee you, if it were Sadiq Khan, who was leader of the Labour Party, or one of these kind of very kind of shallow poster boy types, you wouldn't be seeing nearly the kind of coverage you're getting with the Labour Party, and especially when you look at the current coverage, they're not criticising policy, very little of it. What they're criticising is Corbyn's leadership, whatever, which is, I think, quite telling. I mean, if this were, I think, a more mainstream candidate, well, I don't think the policy would be so radically left, unfortunately, but there would be this kind of tit for tat over that. But instead, it's more focused on the leader, and I think it's quite telling.
So is it our responsibility, well, not me so much, I've only just got going, but your responsibility to get people, particularly young people, out to vote?
Yeah, I mean, there was a report today in The Guardian saying that 76% of students at the University of Sheffield are registered to vote. I think that's really important. I think that young people have to get out, they have to have their voices heard. I think that is so telling from, you look at the past elections, you look at the referendum result. I think it's really important that students in particular are encouraged to. Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but I'm the pessimist here. They won't. I mean, there was this big story recently about, oh, look how many students have registered to vote. Like, half of those students are going to be the students who from first year to second year have moved house and are re-registering to vote. I think we have to face it that I think one of the greatest triumphs of the kind of mainstream media is creating such apathy. Like people always see it as a, like, you know, they were saying, oh, it's a problem for politics, but in the sense of the establishment, it's not. It's great for them because they can, you know, essentially. What's the age rating? This licensing here. They can screw us over, essentially. The last thing they want is obviously an active youth vote, and I think they've done very well at doing so.
I mean, there are two options. There's not voting, and then there's voting for the Tories. So both of those quite nihilist options. Well, no, the Greens, Labour, arguably Lib Dems actually believe in something. Whereas the Tories, it's more of a kind of nothing will change, so why bother trying? So we're going to vote Tory because we're either fine with the way things are or we just don't believe in change.
Well, I mean, I think this is something that's... This is where I get really controversial, and you can see that Forge is pretty cutting edge.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you wait.
You're all kicking off now.
I think it's the case that... You wonder why people vote for the Tories, and it's clearly. I mean, there's only so much of this kind of they're being duped by the press that I believe. Like, but I think there's oddly enough there's this faith we have in the electorate in the sense that they vote for bad things, but they're not bad people. They don't do bad things. There's a guy called Slavoj Žižek who made a similar analogy. Really obscure about the refugee crisis currently, and I think we should take the approach of look, the electorate aren't necessarily great, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try and invoke change. And I think this is why we should be far more sceptical of democracy than we are, because I think it leads to things like this. We've had Trump with Brexit stuff, and now we have this. The Tories still in power, and I'm seeing all these kind of my liberal friends going, how is it? All my friends voted Labour on Facebook.
I mean, Maz, do you think democracy works?
Yeah, I think it does, but it has to work in a way that people have the information that they need. I was driving home over the weekend, and I was thinking, it's quite worrying the amount of information or the anti-amount of information that people have. They just don't have enough knowledge about what is going on. They don't have enough knowledge about the different policies.
But now we're talking in ideals. That's the thing. I think it's so entrenched. It's so difficult to disseminate this kind of information.
I mean, we talked about TAB and the modern media. I mean, one thing that we do get from people continually hearing what they want to hear is something like, I don't know if any of you know about Free Domain Radio or InfoWars or these kind of far-right, people
You're watching a man have a mental breakdown.
Well,
it's great.
It's funny to us, but people genuinely believe this, and it's like people going to the weekly kind of priest who is ultimately a far right winger who tells everyone that they're special because they're white and possibly
I think this is another problem in the sense that I think people want to have very simplified, boiled down news stories, and I think the TAB does this quite a lot in the sense that they want their soundbite or their kind of I've read this and now I can move on. When most news stories are really complex, really nuanced, and take time to kind of communicate, but people, it's human nature to not want that.
It's a lot like Brexit. I mean, if people went through the ins and outs of Brexit, I mean, I'm a politics student. I struggle.
Well, that's why I think we should be so sceptical of democracy, because I think we need this level of expertise over it. I mean, the thing with Brexit, I always felt we did leave. If we leave, it would have been because of Project Fear. But if we had stayed, though I think we should have stayed in the EU, it would have largely been down to was it the other way around? No. So if we left, it would be down to Project Hate. But if we had stayed, it would have been because of Project Fear, in the sense that we have these boiled down narratives that, regardless of my personal preference, I thought we should have stayed. That's what would have won the referendum. So I think you can make these oversimplified.
Do you agree? For one last comment before we go.
Well, I actually voted Leave in the referendum.
I voted Leave, and was it to do with the fact that it's a neoliberal organisation that's completely corrupt?
Yes, the establishment, Owen Jones.
There we go. Because there were people like Dennis Skinner who voted Leave, and yet, do you think that if the left had had a voice for Leave that was more prominent, that maybe people would have said, yes, there actually is a case for leaving the European Union that isn't just pure racism?
I think that the thing is that a lot of newspapers, I'm looking particularly at The Guardian, The Independent, they said, you're voting Leave because you're racist. And it's like, but there's people within the Labour Party, which you are said to support, who are on the Leave campaign.
Well,
who,
I'm a Labour member. And,
yeah.
Well, again,
and you
I think
just don't hear about us.
I guess this sums up the whole problem with Brexit. Is they kind of presented it with two kind of, there's either political utopia or political nightmare, depending on which side you were on. Like if you left, it would be Brexit nightmare, whatever. But if we stayed, we'd have some kind of multicultural disaster. It's not. There were two really bad political realities we had to face in making the decision. I chose Remain. I'm really sceptical of the EU. I think it's an atrocious organisation, but I felt the less worse reality was
Before we
to
enter
Remain.
this debate, I think it's good to say that we're running out of time. Thank you again, Michael.
Thank you.
Laz. Tomorrow I will have socialist students and someone. People's Assembly Against Austerity. So, tune in if you want to see that, but from me and from you two, thank you and goodbye.